So among all the contenders running for this position, why should voters choose you?
Well, I'm a libertarian, which is different. I do have a libertarian opponent, but the other candidates are Republicans and Democrats primarily. And libertarians are really committed to smaller government. We've seen Democrats and Republicans both radically increase the size of government. It doesn't seem to matter which one of them is in charge. That's basically what they do. And libertarians have been advocating for smaller government since 1971. So I think that's, I guess, the number one reason. If someone is interested in trying to get the federal government under control, they need to look outside the party lines, because that hasn't been working very well.
List what you believe are the three most significant issues facing Missouri now. How would you address these issues, and what would be the financial and non-financial cost of your actions?
The economy is extremely important, and I think that we can improve the economy by decreasing regulations. Now, again, I'm running for U.S. Senate, so that would be a national issue, which certainly would affect Missouri as well as other states. But I think that the economy has got to be the most important issue, because the official jobless rate is about 10%. Other reports say that it's really as high as 20%, because they don't count people that have given up looking for work. There's a massive problem in that regard. So we've got to cut spending, cutting taxes. A lot of Republicans talk about cutting taxes. However, if you cut taxes and then just borrow the money from China or print the money at the Federal Reserve, then all you're doing is just pushing the burden further on to the next generation. And there's already a massive unfunded liability, so we can't keep doing that. We've got to cut government spending. We've got to cut that across the board. We can't cherry pick too many projects, so to speak, and that's difficult, because everybody thinks their own project is the most important. So basically, the economy is the number one issue. Related to that would be the health care issue. I do support Proposition C that's on the ballot, state sovereignty. That's a state sovereignty issue. The health care bill is unconstitutional in terms of the mandate that it puts on individuals to buy insurance. That's never happened in the world that I'm aware of, that a government has required somebody to buy a product just by virtue of the fact that they exist. That really amounts to corporate welfare for insurance companies, and libertarians are very much opposed to corporate welfare. We're not. A lot of people think of capitalism as being in favor of big business, but that's really not the case. True capitalism benefits the consumer. What's called mercantilism or corporatism, which is practiced primarily by our government now, that tends to benefit big business, and that's not what we're about. Okay, and then you asked for three, I think. Okay, privacy issues are a great concern of mine as well. Things like the Real ID Act, National Animal ID, obviously it's not privacy for animals, but it's a burden on farmers. Red light camera is not a national issue, but certainly a state and local issue. Things along those lines that we've seen because of the Patriot Act. Those things have gotten out of control. It threatens our civil liberties. It's an affront to our civil liberties. So those issues are also very important to me.
If all politics are local, in what ways would your work in Washington affect people back in Missouri?
I think that if we can get the government out of the way in terms of regulation and spending, and generally getting in the way of people that want to create jobs, then that's going to help across the board, not just, it's certainly going to help locally, because at the end of the day, I own a business, I own a small manufacturing company, and I know that regulation is a tremendous burden. And having worked in the area of EPA regulation sort of up close and personal for about 20 years, I know that most of it doesn't accomplish anything. It's pushing paper, and it basically enslaves business owners to government regulators rather than enslaving them to their customers, which is where they should be, which would help them create jobs and create prosperity. So basically, getting the federal government out of the way is certainly going to help Main Street. Right now we have mega corporations lobbying for mega spending or mega bills like the financial bill that just passed, and the big banks that were bailed out. I was at a talk last night from the Federal Reserve, the president of the Federal Reserve of Kansas City, in fact, and he was talking about how these major banks are 40 to 50% larger than they were at the time they were bailed out. So regulation tends to make big companies bigger at the expense of the smaller companies that basically end up paying for it through their taxes. So that problem, yes, it's something that's happening in Washington, but it has a profound effect on Main Street, because the guy on Main Street's not getting bailed out. He's the one paying for it.